I'm Mairenn and I'm a PhD student in zoology, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about how you might defend your nest from predators and cuckoos and whether it's worth doing it like a drongo. And a drongo is one of the species I study. That's one dive bombing from pretty high up going straight down towards this pied crow here, and another one that's just gone for an attack in there. And a fork-tailed drongo, this looks like this close up. And they nest across sub-Saharan Africa, building these little nests, generally out of twigs, that they like to put quite high up, inconveniently high up, in trees, out on the end of long branches. And they lay a clutch usually of around 3 eggs. But there's quite a lot of evolution going on in drongos because they're engaged with a bunch of different enemies in order to try and get these eggs through to chicks that can leave the nest successfully. The first set of this is predators. So at the field site that I work at, we get a range of predators from other birds, like the hornbill on the left. Snakes are really common nest predators, and mammals as well. And around 80% of drongo nests will be predated. So 4 in 5 attempts will actually be eaten by something before they get to fledging. As well as that, they have another enemy, and that's the African cuckoo. Some of you might know about the common cuckoo in the UK, and it's very similar here. So the African cuckoo will lay its egg in a fork-tailed drongo nest rather than building its own nest. And when it does that, if that cuckoo egg hatches, the cuckoo chick will push out all of the drongo eggs from the nest on its back. That's the photo on the left. So it's the only chick left in the nest, and then it can take all of the food from the drongo parent. So they're only feeding this one cuckoo chick, and that helps it grow pretty huge. So again, this nest would hold 3 drongo chicks, but as you can see, it's barely holding this now pretty humongous cuckoo chick, which the drongo will continue to feed all the way to this point. So against these twin threats of both really high predation and this cuckoo threat, what can drongos do? Well, to look at this, I work in Choma, in southern province in Zambia, which is on the map there, across this Miombo woodland with a wonderful field team, some of whom are shown. That's Collins, Honest, Joel and Maggie, who are all part of the team there. And firstly, we have to look at what eggs are in the nest. So we need to know, is there a cuckoo egg in a drongo nest? Has it been parasitized? And to get these eggs out of these nests, we use something called an egg spoon. It's quite homemade. It's a little coil of wire on the end of a really long stick. That's the end of the stick there. And using this, you can scoop the eggs out of the nest and bring them in to the end of a branch, lower them down the tree, and then check to see what's going on. And part of seeing what's going on is what stage the eggs are at. And to do that, you can just shine a torch from underneath. And a fresh egg will look something like that on the left, where you've got just the yolk in the middle and then lots of light coming through. And then as it starts to develop here, you've got the embryo with different blood vessels starting to spread out. And knowing this is really useful for doing the experiments, which I'll come to next. So using this, firstly, I looked at whether drongos can just use aggression to protect their nests. So in that first image and in this image, you can see drongos really like to attack different species, and this works against both predators and the cuckoo. And to look at this, I often use 3D printed models, so I'll pass this one around, which are then painted and can be presented at drongo nests to see how they're reacting to different threats. And in particular, I was interested in whether hawk mimicry by the cuckoo affects drongo aggression. So drongos usually would attack something, but if they think it's a hawk, maybe they'd be afraid to attack it, and that would actually protect the cuckoo from this drongo aggression. And as you can see in this photo, African cuckoos and little sparrowhawks share a bunch of features. They've got this same sort of yellow eye, yellow feet, and this black barring on their white front and the grey back. And so I presented models of cuckoos and hawks at drongo nests. And to give you a sense of what this looks like, here's the cuckoo model. And drongo mobbing really is something not to be messed with. As a researcher that also looks at the effect of temperature and climate change on the chick weight, when you're measuring chicks below a drongo nest, they think you're as bad as that cuckoo. But actually, it looks like this really high aggression that drongos show, they actually aren't afraid to mob hawks either. So looking like a hawk doesn't protect the African cuckoo because they're so aggressive, they'll attack anything that they're presented with. So what else can drongos do as well as this really high aggression? I was interested in whether drongos could use mimicry to protect their nests. And that's because while doing these presentations with those models, I noticed that sometimes drongos wouldn't attack, but instead they'd fly in trees nearby and make different sounds. And so let's just listen to a couple of the sounds we've got going on here. The first one is a goshawk. And now this is the drongo. Really similar. And that's in the spectrum there. This is an African cuckoo. The common cuckoo that we get here, the female. And then this is a drongo. And finally, the grey hornbill. And then a drongo. So hopefully you can hear that the drongo in each of those doesn't sound similar to the other drongos. They actually sound much more similar to these different species in the environment. And so what's going on here? Why are drongos mimicking all these different sounds? There's a bunch of different hypotheses. Some could be that if they're mimicking hawks, that they're directly repelling other threats. So some predators might think, oh, there's a hawk, I'm not going to go in this area because I'm at threat if those predators have other predators that are raptors. And mimicking cuckoo calls could similarly signal to cuckoos that there's already a cuckoo in that area. And because if one cuckoo egg is laid in the nest, that one's going to hatch first and throw out all the other eggs, it's then not worth it for the next cuckoo to lay its egg in that nest. But it's not just grey hornbills, there's a whole heap of other species that drongos are also mimicking. And so what's that doing? It was kind of a bit of an open question. And to look at that, I played back different sets of mimicry alongside normal drongo alarm calls, their own species-specific ones, at dummy nests to see what would happen. And sometimes what you'd see is something a lot like this. And what's going on here, I don't know how many species you can see, but there's basically birds all over the place, like top left, probably 12 or 13 different species here, which are all coming and then mobbing or responding to this one model. And so it actually looks like one of the features of drongo mimicry is to attract a load of different birds to come and help them mob the threat. And those birds might not respond to just the drongo call, but if they hear their own alarm call, they'll think that it's worth to respond as well. So that's another option of vocal mimicry. There's another thing drongos can do. If both of these lines of defense fail and a cuckoo has laid its egg in the drongo nest, they can play a game of spot the odd one out. So if, like in this case, you've got a cuckoo egg that looks a little bit different to the other two, drongos are able to throw that egg out of the nest before it hatches into a cuckoo chick. But there's a problem. Over evolutionary time, we think cuckoos have evolved to be very good at mimicking drongo eggs. So cuckoos can almost perfectly mimic different drongo patterns. Is there anything left for the drongos to do as another line of defense? Well, actually there is. They can add signatures to their eggs. And a lot of this work was done by Jess Lund, who's also a researcher in zoology in this department. How do they add signatures to their eggs? Well, if you have your signature, I've got Ada Lovelace's signature there as a female scientist, they'll usually be distinct for an individual. So your signature will be very different from other people's signatures, and that helps you recognize it as specific to you. It will also be repeatable. Whenever you write your signature, you'll do the same thing each time, and again, that helps it be a marker of your own identity. And finally, it'll usually be a little bit complex. If your signature was just a straight line, it would be easy for anyone to forge that, and so to avoid that, you often have some complexity. And these three things are exactly what we've seen drongos evolve in their egg patterns. So here's 4 different drongo sets of eggs, but each of the 4 is from the same drongo. So the top left is one drongo, and you can see it's very different from the other drongos. It's got these kind of like brown blotches, whereas others have little speckles in bottom left or bigger black markings. But it's very repeatable within an individual drongo. So they always lay the same kind of egg. All 3 in that top left are very repeatable, and they're often quite complex. They've got these different size and shapes of different markings. And so, yeah, kind of in conclusion, we've got aggression, we've got mimicking the calls of other birds, and we've got egg signatures to help spot a cuckoo egg. And so even in the face of these really high predation pressures, we see this evolutionary battle where this really strong pressure has selected for really strong defenses in the drongos. And this is kind of ongoing through time. We're seeing more pressures and counter-attacks and then counter-defenses evolving. And I'd just like to say a huge thank. This is the full Choma team that we work with, and the group's led by Professor Claire Spottiswoode. And huge thanks to all these people, and happily take any questions.